I am here with my man Asif. Yo, what's up, brother?
Yo, Joey Mags, what's good, kid?
Dude, it's good to have you back on the pod. And actually, this is the first hour pod. This is the first edition of the Wrap It Up, kind of inspired by when we did the pod last year at the end of 2014.
Yes, sir. 2015, getting it started.
How's your year started off, man?
It's been good thus far. You know what I mean? I'm a lot of good content out there. A lot of interesting things. The Knicks are on a 3-game winning streak. So
there you go.
Good.
Yo, okay, actually, for real. Like this is me not even being like, I'm not trying to be satirical. I'm not trying to like make fun of our Knicks. I'm just saying it. I love Langston Galloway.
I'm trying to get that jersey already.
Dude, I'm going to tell you about Langston Galloway though. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah, what do you got?
I saw him play at the Barclays Center. Went through pickandSplinters.com. Shout out to Paul Gotham. We had passes to the A10 tournament, so I was there the whole time. And St. Joe's was a sick team. And
yes.
This is the team. It was like a bunch of other guys who were like pretty solid. And then it was Galloway and this Russian dude. And I forget his name. I'm drawing a blank on him. And like, imagine Boris Diaw, but like if you just took him right now and put him in college, like all the same skills, like everything.
Oh wow!
But he's a Russian dude, not French, and like he and Galloway would just run circles around these boys. Like the dude would come up, set a screen for Galloway, and like a defender would bounce off his body, and Galloway would then have an open three, and he was money. He shot like 45% for the year on threes. Mm-hmm. This last year at school. So, like, I'm not really surprised he's doing well. Like, the whole NBA is about threes right now. And Galloway can shoot.
10-day contracts. That's going to be the Knicks' new thing.
Dude, give him the max.
Yeah. Give him the 2-week max.
Yo, that's what gotta do. Right, I was about to say, like, whatever that is, like $500 a day or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Knicks are going to start a whole new model. Forget what's going on in Houston.
Yo, but I'm all in on Galloway. I don't know. I'm pumped for the Knicks to get an actual lottery talent. I'm all about Miles Turner at Texas. I don't know if you got a guy at college who you're thinking we should draft, but I love Turner. There's a couple other guys that are good though.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm always leaning towards if they can get a big body because you know they're so rare. And I feel like it really solidify the defense. So we shall see. I got to see how the college year plays out a little bit too.
True. There's some March Madness to be watched, no doubt.
Of course.
Klay Thompson.
Wow.
Right?
Dude.
Right?
You kidding me? But here, I want to say something. I'm going to be a little negative here.
Okay.
This might hurt him in a little bit because, like, most people know Klay Thompson right now, right? They know the Splash Brothers, but, like, after, what was that, last night? After the 37, after the 37 and 1 quarter, he's a household name now. The expectations for Klay Thompson are like really high right now. Now, maybe it's proper, but I don't know. Sometimes things like that can hurt a player.
I think the Warriors are going to be okay because even when you watched that game and you watched how he got those shots, the whole team made it a choice. They were like, all right, no one else needs to shoot. It's Klay. This is Klay's moment to shine. And I think, like, let's say that was Draymond instead of Klay. I think it would have played out the exact same way. Like, I think that team is really interested in winning every night by as many points as possible. And that's why you got guys like Iguodala and David Lee. They don't care about starting. They're like, we'll be second unit guys. We're buying in. Like, everybody's committed to just being the best team we've seen in years. And like right now, their like plus minus is the same as the 96 Bulls. Like they're killing teams. And I think they're going to be fine. I hear what you're saying though about Klay. I think like the dilemma for any defense is, okay, you could throw more defenders at Klay. Like you can do whatever you want, but they still got Steph, who is possibly the greatest shooter in the history of the game. So
there's arguments for that, for sure.
So you can't really do anything about that. Like they're gonna make 8 threes a night, or whatever they're gonna make.
No, of course. I think he's gonna be fine, but I think it's gonna be interesting now that he is a household name. I think as good as he is and has been, I don't think he was a household name because he's not really like a flashy guy. Seemingly, he almost like, tell me how you scored 37 points in a quarter out of this world. And there was some ridiculous plays, the one hand slam, but he's like so matter of fact about everything, like barely celebrating. And he just like dominated one of the best quarters you ever see in your life. Right.
Well, that's the difference between he and Steph. Like Steph is a flamethrower, yo. Like when he gets going, he like high octane. It's like it's the greatest show we've ever seen. When like Clay's version of being hot is just being perfect. Like I think it was poetic that he didn't miss that quarter because like that's really how Clay is. His shot is just perfect. Like if he's open, he's stroking it like 55% of the time or whatever. And like that quarter is like, oh, I'm gonna just make everything. I think with Steph, his version of that would have been like he would have just started going deeper and deeper.
Yeah, right.
Right?
And to have a few plays where he just like destroys the entire defense.
Oh yeah. So I love the Warriors. One of my best friends is a Warriors fan, so I wasn't watching the game live. I watched it on the DVR later. Yeah. So I had to put my phone to the side for a second. When I came back to my phone, my friend who's a Warriors fan, he was just like, "Holy shit, Klay Thompson!" And I'm like, what?
Yeah, so. No, that's the only way to describe it. Honestly, it was like in the NBA always amazes you, right? Day to day, so much great activity happening, and like especially if you pay attention, you're like, but that's gonna stand out as something this season. Like, whoa,
that record might. I mean, when is someone gonna do that again?
No, that's insane.
Right. So that was dope. All right, so Wrap It Up podcast. Yes. Not an NBA podcast. Although we're probably going to talk about hoops every time, but
for sure, you got to get a little bit
right. But for our first episode, we actually got a really good premise. Like people are going to look at this pod as the first one. They're going to be like, "All right, this is a good show." We're breaking down Complex earlier this month. They put out their Best Rappers Alive piece, and both Asif and I were really into this because, well, actually, I'll let you have it. You made a really good point that this is the best way to talk about hip hop.
Yes, 100%. I think, especially with this movie that came out not too long ago, Top 5, right? A lot of people have always had this conversation. Who's in your top 5? Who's your favorite rapper? Who's the best rapper ever? And they're all kind of unique questions, but I never thought they answered anything that well. I mean, it's all subjective, but to me, I think in understanding rap, rather than thinking who's the best rapper ever, which, by the way, some people would say that Jay-Z had the best rap career ever, but I don't mean he's the best ever, two different things. But rather than think about who's the best rapper ever, I like to think that for a couple of years at a time, one rapper claims the title of the best rapper on the planet. And because just the way time works and it's hard to keep up the level of incredible content, you hold it for a few years if you're really lucky. If you're somebody like Jay, you can maybe hold it for longer, but it passes. So somebody has it for a few years, somebody else takes over, and then it just kind of goes like that. And some people might come back and come for a second run. Some of the greats, I'd like to say, have done that. But I think what's great about the article is it's something I've thought about for a while. Don't think about who's the best rapper ever. Think about, for a year or two, who held the title as the best for that time.
Now, one of my, kind of bigger beefs with the piece, not even just an observation I made, was they were really year to year. 12 months to 12 months to 12 months. And I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know how many rappers actually had it for multiple years in a row. Jay had that stretch where he had it and then gave it up and got it back, and then gave it up and got it back. But
yeah,
I don't know how many dudes they had hold it for multiple years. And I don't know, I think in a lot of ways, once you're the best rapper alive, it's hard to be kicked off of that pedestal,
100%. I think I agree with that 1,000% actually, in that, I think for the purposes of their column, they're we need to give it to someone every year to kind of highlight the year. But I agree that for me, the person who has it for a while until they almost lose it. And the way to lose it is to not make a bunch of music for a while, or you come out with something and it just really wasn't that good, and right. Mark your fall off. So just to have the listeners kind of understand, for me, once Kendrick got the title, let's say in 2013, in my eyes, he hasn't relinquished it.
Okay, that was going to be my big thing at the end. You took it.
Yeah.
That was my point.
It has to be, because only because it's like he had the classic album, and he hasn't dropped an album since. But we've heard a few songs here and there. He's nailed every song. Like, you walk away talking about him in the song. He had the Control verse, which like changed rap. You know what I mean? And yeah, he's just dominated everything. So I think that this title is his until his next album comes out. And if it's not what we think it is, if it's not great like we all expect, I think the expectations are through the roof. That's when he loses it.
Right.
Until then, it's his for me.
I'm glad you said that. I want to table the Kendrick thing for the end.
Yes.
I have a lot to say about that too.
Okay.
I agree with you that it should have been harder for the top dogs, no pun intended, to lose their spot each year. But I agree that for the purposes of what they're doing, it was a history lesson, more or less. And what they really wanted to do was talk about each year. So I hear that. You want to jump into 1993? There was a ton. I mean, everyone should check this out if you haven't checked it out. The 80s, a lot of good history lessons. Rock the Bells. LL Cool J had it his year. So like a lot of cool stuff. Early 90s, you saw Ice Cube. They gave it to him in 90. I think Redman was 92.
Yeah. A lot of people show love for Redman like that. Like, you know, in the great Eminem song,
Till I Collapse,
where he names all the rappers. People forget the first rapper he says, Reggie. Yeah. Who's that? He's talking about Redman. So it's like, I don't know if the list is supposed to be chronological, but it's interesting that the very first person he said was Reggie.
Fun fact about Redman, the first time, because like I'm a youngin', I'll admit it. The first time I heard anything about Redman was when he did the music video with Christina Aguilera for Dirty.
Yeah. What a hilarious way to get introduced to Red.
So like I've always seen him through that lens, which is like kind of a weird way. So
well, the thing is, and to go to the history bit, is like Redman, even though he's still making music today, the Black albums with him and Math, they're good. But we kind of missed, like, I caught the tail end of his heyday. I didn't catch, you know, Redman at like the top of his game, I think, or the prime of his powers. He had like a lot of great content, I think, for a few years there and I think they gave it to him in 92. You know, which is, it got to tell you something about how, you know, how much he was loved back then.
Okay. Here, just pause for a second. I think you were having some technical difficulties, I think, on your end.
Oh, really? Well, you're not hearing me?
You were coming in and out for a second. It might be okay now.
How about, you hear me all right now?
Yeah, I'm hearing you fine now.
Oh, okay. I think we're good. I think once I started speaking about years that were before me, the internet lords were like, chill. They're like, chill, dude. If you don't know that shit, don't speak on it. And that's fair. That's fair. So I think the internet told us, start at 93, start with what you know. So props to everything in the 80s. Yo, props to Run DMC, because like when you hear certain tracks of the 80s that can still rock, to me, there's no greater test in any sort of art form than the test of time. Some of these Run DMC tracks, they still like bang. Like they came out yesterday. They're great. Christmas in Hollis, probably one of the best rap Christmas songs ever. Right. You know, so things like that. So much great things to mention in the 80s, but unfortunately, that's not the music that we grew up on. So we're, of course, better suited, starting with 93 there, right?
Right. So 93, they give it to Snoop Doggy Dogg, which my side of it, you're going to make an argument. My side of it is they kind of had to. I mean, like Snoop Dogg, if you think about what that year has done, like for his career, like I don't think, in my opinion, he's come out with anything that really even touches that stretch. And for now 20 plus years, Snoop Dogg, is there a cultural figure in hip hop that means more than Snoop Dogg? You know what I mean? Like he is one of the all-time legends of the whole genre. But that was the peak.
Yeah, well, that's it. You first got introduced and got like a taste of Snoop in the Chronic, and like he probably has just as much rap time on the Chronic as Dre, right? It's like basically their album together rather than just Dre's album, and that album is considered like a absolute classic. So like if you're the co-star on an absolute classic with the Chronic, then you drop Doggy Style, which a lot of people to today And the funny thing is, I didn't even mess with Doggy Style when it first came out. I found out about it like years later. But you talk to a lot of people today, Doggy Style is their favorite like rap album of all time. So for me, giving it to Snoop '93 makes perfect sense.
Gin and juice, man. That's all I got. I mean,
you know, classic songs that like everybody and their mother knows.
Like, just we're gonna talk a lot about Biggie and Pac in like a few minutes. Yes. Can I keep it real? Can I keep it real?
Please. That's the only thing I want, really.
Right. If I'm keeping it 1,000, I'm not huge into Biggie or Pac. I think part of it is, especially someone my age who I was an infant when they were at their heyday. Like they kind of get forced onto people my age. It's like, oh, Biggie and Pac, they're the greatest.
Yeah.
And when you tell somebody that somebody is the greatest, you're either going to take it and you'll be like, yes, they are. You're gonna subscribe, or the opposite's going to happen. And you're going to judge everything you hear with the most critical, like, fine-tooth comb. And for me, like, of course, I'm going to, like, if you throw, I don't know, like, throw California Love on, like...
Yeah. Ugh.
Right? Like, I love it when you call me Big Pop. Like the bangers are the bangers. But, like, if I throw... Like, you gave me All Eyes on Me, right?
Yes. Ugh.
When I throw that on the surface level, I can definitely bump it. But it doesn't work for me the same way that it probably worked for somebody who listened to it for the first time in '96.
Yeah.
Just as the way it is. Like,
no, I think to your point, right? When you didn't hear them when they first came out, right? When you heard them, they were dead already, right? And everyone is like, they're the best, untouchable. No one will ever be great like them. And then, it puts them in a tough spot for you. Like, it would have been better, like all music, I think it's better to just hear it, get to form your thoughts on it, and then later on hear, oh, they think he's the best or he's the worst, because then I think maybe you could just step to Biggie with like an open mind. So unfortunately, your well was poisoned a little bit there. But with me, Biggie and Pac, an interesting thing, because I remember when they like passed away, everybody was, in the years that they were like the kings of rap, right? People were like, yeah, these guys are awesome. I was more, even though I'm from Brooklyn, I was more of a Pac guy than Biggie. Pac just seemingly resonated with me more. And everybody, I thought P. Diddy was kind of a punk. So as good as Biggie was, it was like, are you going to roll with Suge and Snoop and Dre? Or would you rather be with Diddy and Mace, who hadn't really gotten big yet, in 112? And even though I love 112, it was like, all right, we're all about Pac. We're like soldiers with Pac trading war stories. So, but the one funny thing I think is like, and unfortunate, is that like, because they died, right? Like Biggie was about to drop his double CD, one of the great rap albums of all time. Because he died right there, and really he only dropped 2 rap albums, I think it was only after his death, in my opinion, that I heard people saying he's the best ever. Right? So like I think there was a different effect of both of them dying in these tragic ways, right, with their greatest works having just come out or about to come out, that kind of solidified them as the best ever. Because like, who's to say that if Biggie wasn't, and Chris Rock actually says something really similar to this in Top 5. He's like, who's to say that like if Pac was still alive, that because he was a great actor too, that he would keep making great movies? Who's to say he wouldn't just be in like Tyler Perry movies and like be a bum? And who's to say that Biggie wouldn't come out with his next album and it was way too P. Diddy influenced and it was like kind of corny? So I kind of get your critiques. For me, they are all-time greats. But like other guys I have above them, for me, Nas and Jay, just because they have more albums, right? More albums of quality work.
Right. Well, because like for me, I never got to see Pac and Biggie as artists. I only got to see them as gods, right?
Yes.
As like larger than life.
And
it's like, I don't know, it just didn't work. I think the point that we'll probably end up making a bunch of times with guys like Nas and Jay and a bunch of other dudes is like, they got a chance to actually make art. And, like, in the moment, and, like, it got critiqued, and it got, like, jammed, and, like, it got picked apart, and then it lived on. And, like,
yes,
it's hard. It's just hard for Pac and Big because we don't know what the majority of their careers would have even been like. So
yeah, and, like, Pac, great example in that, like, for me, there's a bunch of Pac albums that I'm not crazy about. Now, there are certain times, and maybe that's why, and getting down the list, we'll see. like so look, going and actually just to continue in the order, right? So they have 93, they have Snoop. 94, they have Nas. Now, I think 94, me and you have discussed, and a lot of people agree, one of the greatest years, if not the greatest year in rap history. Because you got Illmatic dropped in 94. What else is that?
36 Chambers comes out
36 Chambers, Ready to Die. So just incredible, like all-time great albums. So for me, it's almost, I give it to Nas 94 just because, like, I remember being really young, but when Illmatic came out, everyone was like, what the hell just happened? This guy was just like, he was like a rap prodigy who just came out of nowhere. Like, I'm even more amazed by it now when I listen to it because it's like, it's some of his best work. He's one of our greatest rappers. It's some of his best work. Dude is 17 years old. Like, what? How's that even make sense?
Illmatic, when you throw it on, you throw it on tomorrow and it's like, still one of the best things, it's just
it's instant nostalgia and just rocks.
Right. Illmatic's ridiculous. You were actually, I gotta let you make your point. The reason why I got sidetracked on Jay and Biggie, just putting that out, was in my opinion, the best hip-hop song from that era to throw on at any party is Gin and Juice for me. Like, above Biggie's bangers and Tupac's bangers, for me it's Gin and Juice.
Yeah, well, I feel like I've been a little hard on both of them, so let me allow just a moment just to give Big and Pac their just due.
Okay.
And I think for Pac, I think the one thing, even all these years later, even though some of his albums I don't like, for me, All Eyes on Me, one of the best rap albums ever, double disc, mostly just bangers, great. I don't think that anyone in the history of rap demonstrated emotion in their voice the way Pac did. Like, Pac was like, M does it from time to time, and I'm sure he'll be the first to admit that, like, he got some of these ideas from listening to Pac, but like, Pac, just like the things he said, he could say something really simple, but like the emotion that he'd like bring out in saying it, for me, no rapper actually tops him in that. And also his range, right? Pac could give you like the gulliest song of all time, but then he also gives you Dear Mama and Brenda's Got a Baby, and you don't think his gully shit is fake, and you don't think his like more like nicer quote unquote songs or the ones with like emotional messages like that, you don't think they're corny, right? So that is like incredibly hard because most artists are like 50 Cent, I'm gonna be a gangster artist, or like Common, I'm gonna be, he might not like the title, but people consider him a backpack rapper. Pac, to me, most like evocative in terms of like just with his voice and the way he could like I guess affect his cadences and just the emotion in it, and the greatest range in terms of topics that he could like kind of broach through his music. And then quickly about Big, just the smoothest SOB around, right? Just like a straight G. His like charisma is almost hard to describe. Like, it's one of those things that I almost feel like it's better left unstated. Just see him and be like, Big is just a G, And lyrically, he was an animal too. Incredible storyteller, great charisma on the mic, and just super flow. Not the range of Pac. He wasn't making the variety of songs Pac was, but his messages meant a lot too.
Yeah. No, I mean, when I listen to those two guys, I try my hardest to leave everything else that people tell me about them out and just let them, like, just blast my eardrums. Like, like you said, Pac's voice is probably the greatest of all time, man. Like, just what he could do with that voice.
Yeah.
And, like, you still hear its influence today. Like, a guy like Kendrick is absolutely head over heels influenced by what Pac was doing with his voice and his range. And Biggie, like Biggie's strength, like dude jumped on a track and you felt like you were just like catching body blows. You were like,
yes, 100%.
Right.
That, and how could I forget to say a thing about Biggie that not many people match? Big Pun, the other person that I think had it too, and of course I think their size kind of ties into it. Incredibly funny guys, like really hilarious on the track, like saying silly shit, whatever, like making light of their own situations. But like, there's not many people in rap who are like ill rappers who are actually also hilarious. Like, you'd never say, "Oh, Jay-Z, what a funny guy," or "Nas is so hilarious." But with Big, you could say that dude was just like, "Listen up, I got a story to tell." The whole story about like him messing around with some like Knicks players girl at the time who recently they've been talking about that actually, and John Starks claims he knows who the player was. I think the story was just a made-up story, for a song, but you got people like John Starks saying that this really happened. It's just hilarious.
Yeah.
So yeah, Biggie, another thing you got to say, incredibly clever.
He's very clever, no doubt, no doubt. So, got to give you the platform, 93, you got to make a case for Meth.
Okay, so Meth case. And thank you for that, because a lot of people, and I think this goes to your point, it's a good one, is that like it's all about the focus that you get things under, right? So now the focus you get, or the lens that you see Method Man of today, is stoner rapper, him and Redman just lit up all the time, and like he's good, he's funny, but like that's all you get. 93, 94, to me, Method Man is like the most charismatic guy on the scene, and he's got this funny energy about him where you're like, it's almost magnetic. And then I think 36 Chambers, dropped in 93 actually. And that he was, to show you how powerful Method Man was as an MC, Wu-Tang in general is filled with great rappers. GZA is incredible. Ghostface Killah had probably most people agree, the best solo career of anybody in Wu-Tang. You got Raekwon, as me and you have talked about, a character from another planet, dude. Just incredible. The one skit on the Outkast album where he's like talking with Big Boy, and he's just like, you gotta come through provocative with like bust your head open beats and like scintillating sounds. It's like, and he's saying it dead serious. So who had all this talent, right? And RZA, the man genius himself, who had all this talent, but they recognized that Method Man was something special. So special that he's the only guy, I'm pretty sure, had his own song, METHOD Man. So he like blasts on the scene, and my man is saying Dr. Seuss raps, and you love every minute of it, right? It's just incredible. Yeah. So I think right there for me, the 1 and 2 are, give Snoop 93, but Method Man is right there. And just a quick sidebar of something that actually hurt Method Man's career, and this is a story that a few Wu-Tang members have thrown out there, is that they had Method Man's first album, To Cal. They had all the beats ready for it. And Method Man, I believe, was supposed to be the first Wu-Tang guy to drop a solo album post 36 Chambers, which was like a great success and changed rap. So they had all the beats ready. They were about to make this classic album. It's in RZA's basement. He has all the beats. That basement floods. And this is back in the day. They lose everything, right? So now they lose everything. And then, of course, you hear more and more about label pressure. They're like, yo, you need to drop that album. You're hot right now. You can't wait any longer. So then they kind of rush to put another album together. I'm sure a lot of the same elements, but they don't have those original beats that they were going to use because, they just didn't have them saved. So for me, what I take from that story is just that the album comes out, and it's a good album. To me, it's not as great as these other albums that we've been discussing, And I think for me, it's one of the great what-ifs in rap history. If this flood doesn't mess up Method Man, the beats for Method Man's first album to me becomes even a bigger hit because it was still a hit, but it wasn't like a classic like a lot of people thought it was going to be. So if that becomes a classic, how does that alter Method Man's like career arc, which of course then alters hip hop in general?
Right.
So there's my little piece on Meth. Incredible rapper.
So 93, I'm willing to give it a Snoop, but we hear about Meth. 94, great year. I got no beef with Illmatic and Nas getting 94. None.
Yeah.
And then kind of when I opened up the browser to go to this article, like I knew what 95 and 96 were, Like 95 is Biggie.
Mm-hmm.
96 is Pac. And I don't think there's any, there's not really any reason to dispute that. Like, that's kind of a part of hip-hop. Like, 95 was Biggie's year, 96 was Pac's year, and then boom, boom, they're gone.
Yes.
I mean, I guess we could kind of peep over the honorable mentions for those years. Like, they had Raekwon in 95 as an honorable mention.
Yes, which is like, that's an album that is considered an all-time great album. And like what they always describe, only built for Cuban links, the description that's always tied to that album was like, it was like an old school mafioso movie. And it was the story basically being Raekwon and Ghostface as two hustlers who are like, this is our last chance really trying to make it. And if we can't make it big this time, that's it. We're not going to make it. So like they create this kind of really like criminal tale about these two guys trying to make it, hustling through the game. And just an incredible album. RZA, like, at the height of his production power, so he's giving you, like, all sorts of beats that you're like, where the hell did these sounds come from?
Bust your head beats.
Exactly. Bust your shit open beats. So, yeah, great. And here's where I think the list kind of breaks down, because for me, 94 to 96, I can't say there's one best rapper. To me, it's just, all three were just at the tops. They were just all great at that time.
Plus, the other thing, it's hard to, like, imagine this world, because, like, within the 24/7 media cycle, and as rap has gotten so popular, and now, like, top 40 is flooded with fake rap, like,
yeah,
rap was still super regional even in the mid-90s. Like, the reason why Pac and Big were kind of dual kings in 95, 96 has just as much to do with the fact that the country was still so regional musically, and, like,
100%.
Pac really did. He owned the West Coast, Biggie owned the East. Like, for God's sakes, people were killing each other over it. So,
yes.
So I think in a lot of ways, there were multiple best rappers alive each of these years, because it really depended on where you were. Like, if you were in Atlanta, like, who knows? Like, you might have been, people somewhere else. So
yeah, you might have just loved Outkast, and when ATLiens and all these other albums are coming out, you're like, to me, this is the best, and this is what I'm hearing. So I think you're right. There was much greater regionalism back then, right? Where, like, the West Coast, they're bumping more Pac songs that I'm not hearing as much, because, being in Brooklyn, they're giving me more, like, all these East Coast rappers. So I think you're right. In those years, in those days, it might be better to think of it, like, rather than one best rapper, it was more which rapper held down their region during that time.
Right. Which is why, what, I'm going to save all of it for when the year comes. I'm not going to waste any of it.
Okay.
We're going to work our way there.
Yeah.
So then 97, they throw it back to Big, which...
So he's not a two-time winner then, or he's a...
Yeah, that is his second year. So he's the first multi-guy from the 90s, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So they give it for life after death.
They didn't give anybody two consecutives, though. So they went Biggie, Pac, Biggie.
Right.
I gotcha. All right.
So, he gets that for life after death. And, like, again, like, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Like, it's like he's not the best rapper alive. But then you look at the honorable mentions. It's the first Jay-Z honorable mention.
Yeah.
And you also have Busta, which I thought was cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, rap's big. Like, Reasonable Doubt is a pretty, like, famous fucking album. So.
Incredible album. Now, where most years I think it's kind of difficult, and yeah, Reasonable Doubt. Interesting thing about Reasonable Doubt, everyone will always say Reasonable Doubt didn't really sell well, and it wasn't a commercial, like, big success, and it wasn't like the quote unquote rap heads, like, listened to it, digested it, and loved it, but it wasn't, like, so well known. So for me, 97, actually, I'm okay with Biggie just holding that down, because one of the greatest double CD rap albums of all time. And, like, still, so many of the songs still knock today. And Reasonable Doubt, great album, but what Biggie was doing there, to me, showed a little more versatility than what I saw on Reasonable Doubt, though it's a great CD.
Now,
so, fine with 97.
Now, 98, I have a feeling you have some thoughts on 98. Because I don't think I've even ever talked to you about this guy. 98, what? What?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
X gonna give it to you.
Yeah. Now, what I want to make sure before I start saying things, because I think it mentions it here. So, sometimes you read a fact somewhere, or somebody tells you a fact. This happens less now because you can look everything up quick. But, like, back in the days, like, let's say back in the days, like, that long ago, 15 years ago, right? If I had a random story and I told it to you, and you thought I was credible, you believed my story, like, about a famous person or whatever, and if you believed it and it was, like, funny or something notable about it, you tell other people. Right. Like, there was a story I used to hear as a kid that, like, do you know why Clint Eastwood looked so badass? Because, like, through his 20s, all he do every day was, like, run 5 miles, drink a 6-pack, and like have Percocets. Now, this is something I heard as a kid. I don't know if it's true or not, but when I heard it, in like 92, I couldn't look up whether it was wrong or right. So I just believed that it was right. It sounded like a badass story. So like, there's stories around these rappers that the same thing kind of happened. You hear these stories and you can never verify them. What am I going to go to the library and like try to contact one of Clint's people? So like one thing that I heard, but this is a little different because there's a stat that I think DMX in 98, only person to have dropped two number one albums in the same year. And I think it verifies that here in this story that he had It's Dark and Hell is Hot and Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, both 98. Which his two best rap albums, two rap albums that like completely captured everyone. Like when DMX, I tell you one thing about 98 when DMX came out, It's Dark and Hell is Hot. For me, and today I'll tell you DMX is not the best rapper. In 1998, he wasn't the best rapper actually because Jay-Z is still technically like from a skill wise, he's better than him. But in 1998, when I was alive in 98, I thought DMX was the greatest thing in rap history. I thought anytime I was listening to the radio, if there was a song and it had like 4 guys on it and DMX was one of the guys, I was basically not really paying that much attention to the other guys, waiting for X to come on because he was going to steal the show. He was everything. He was this incredible energy. And I know the narrative that they like to tie was that he's the guy who came post P. Diddy and like shiny suit era. He was like the grimy, like with lyrics like I'm dirty and I'm happy about it. Shit like that, things in that nature. He was like the gritty, grimy. When you listen to DMX in 98, you wanted to wear Timbs and do dips in the park too. Didn't matter where you were. You're like, this is life. This is what I want to do. But now it's unfortunately another person who like time hasn't been so great to because now the litany of like DMX's rap sheet is so long and so crazy. He's in what Simmons calls the Tyson zone. I think he's kind of in it because, like, some people don't know some of the crimes. Like, DMX a few years ago was, he was caught, like, on an airport runway, right? And he was, like, impersonating an FBI agent, and he had crack in the car. Like, I can't even make that up. But I'm getting off topic. DMX in 98, definitely for me, he was the king of rap. 2 number 1 albums. They both, like, captured everybody. And what was great about it was he had a great variety in his topics too. DMX had street anthems like, Stop, Drop, Shut 'Em Down, Rough Riders anthem, of course, a street anthem. But then he had like reflective shit and like he was really like spiritual. He had prayers. They say DMX even to today in concert, he'll like say the prayers and he gets so overcome with emotion, he starts crying on stage, which like that's probably the greatest thing to ever witness in person up there. So I'm fine with it, and I know you like teasing out the honorable mentions, and a guy who years later was recognized as a better rapper, but his album, I think, didn't get the love it should have, even though it got crazy love, only because DMX was like the son, and this happened to be another big star, was Big Pun.
Yeah.
Pun was just like, I think I was a little too young, so I didn't realize how technically out of this world Pun was. Like, there's other rappers who rap fast. Twister raps fast. Busta can do that, like, fast raps. But the skill set that Pun had, and like I said earlier with Biggie, Pun was hilarious. Just like a funny-ass dude. It's hard to be taken seriously in rap and then also be kind of, like, humorous. Pun did it no problem. Like, he gave you a gangsta-ass lyric and then, like, a straight comedic joke in one line or in one song.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of MCs, if they really want to be funny, they also have to play up like a wickedness, right? And
yes.
Like, there's probably not a better example of that than M, right? Like M has a ton of funny tracks, but like M was also the dude that like pulled out the chainsaw and wrote songs about killing his wife. So like it was always this balance where like if MCs really wanted to be funny, like I think Biggie actually is a great example of that too. Like there was something really sinister about Biggie a lot of the time.
Yes.
Even though, and like he was funny, but you're like, oh shit, like I think he meant that though. Like
no. Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying. Pun was for you. Maybe it was hard to even realize it in the moment what you were like hearing.
He was being overshadowed. Like today, if someone said who's a better rapper, to me right now, DMX or Big Pun. for me, actually, I can easily say Big Pun is a better rapper because he was like a technical wizard. Like, it was, first of all, he was like 500 pounds. And like sometimes like it sounded like he was like mumbling, but like first the lyric, deep in the middle, little did we know that we were riddling with two middlemen who didn't know diddly. Like, I can't even say that. Normally, I can't say it. He's spitting it at like hyper speed, and it's like he had that these crazy tongue twisters that he could just say like nothing. So, and I think that's the funny thing, and maybe that is the value. As much as we've been critiquing Complex, I think this is something they got right. Big Pun's a better rapper, but DMX owned '98. DMX was the best rapper in '98.
All right, so I hear you loud and clear on DMX. I also want to throw a quick shout out, Miss Lauryn Hill. She got an honorable mention that year, and like in general, Fugees was not even referenced on this list, which I was definitely disappointed in because I bump Fugees. I love Fugees.
Can I make an excuse for Complex? They weren't. Maybe if it was best rap groups, maybe they do things different. But I mean, still Fugees and Lauryn Hill. I mean, I'm glad they gave her the honorable mention. Maybe they should have gotten some more mention for sure.
Sure. Okay.
So and Lauryn Hill to me still stands as best female rapper ever.
That's gonna come up later.
To me, like, no competition. No one's on a level. Like, I say prayers at night that Lauryn Hill will just go back to regular rapping and flip the game on its ear again. But unfortunately, I don't think those prayers are gonna be answered.
That's that great Kanye lyric, right, off the Graduation album. He's like, I wish her heart was still in rapping because who the kid's gonna listen to?
Yeah, not me, Miss Lauryn Hill. Yeah.
99. The Rock is in the building. Jay-Z takes his first crown. That feels right.
100% right. Perfectly right in the moment. Because 96, he comes out, he's great, but he's being overshadowed by all these great things happening. And it's funny too, like even in 98, Jay-Z is a better rapper than DMX, but like DMX is shining because his content, he just has like this incredible albums coming out and he's just ripping every song. So, and his energy you just love. But 99 was definitely when Jay-Z became a superstar. He was like known in rap, but not yet as big, until that point. And I think a few things there, which I'm sure they mentioned. Volume 2 was the album that he blew up on. It's a Hard Knock Life. Actually, the song to me, the big song that really blew up Jay-Z was the song with him and Ja Rule and Charlie Baltimore. Can I get a what? Where he's like talking about like women who like, if you're not with the guy, if he's not flossing, then, forget you. And like Ja Rule is actually really good on the song. So to me, very interesting. That's the song to me that kind of started Jay-Z's like run as superstar because then incredible. First of all, Volume 2 is just bangers, right? From there, all the Annie-related hot-ass songs. And then he had a few just like, he was the dude he was just basically on Hot 97 nonstop between his own songs and he's featured on other people's tracks. Just killing it.
Quick comment and question. So comment is, Can I Get a What is so dope. I haven't heard that song in forever. I was 6 years old when that song came out. And I was still, my family still lived in the city of Syracuse. Like, we live in the south side. It was rough. And I would get on the bus and like, I didn't know really what the hell was going on the radio. But I remember that song coming on and everybody, like 6-year-old kids on my bus, can I get a what?
Yeah.
And like, it just, I was like, I was overloaded for me. I was like, I don't even know, but that song's so dope. And
no, that's beautiful. That paints it, right? That 99, if everybody on the bus is rocking your jam and you also have that lyrical content, you ran that year.
Right.
So that paints it perfectly.
And second thing, Hard Knock Life, I don't think Kanye was even in the fold yet with Jay, right? I don't
think so either. No.
Is that the hottest beat / production that Jay ever did without Kanye in the fold?
Wow, great question.
I would say yes. Okay. I don't like that production. Like the concept alone that's extraordinary.
Yes. Yeah, I gotta say definitely because now I'm thinking of a bunch of great production he's had, but like it seems to me that him and Kanye's like sort of coming together was starting with Blueprint, which was then considered, which we'll get to later, another great album of his. So thinking about basically if Kanye and Jay started together in Blueprint, what were the best beats he ever had before that? I'd have to say, that album just had a lot of standout Money Cash Hoes, just great beats. That's like a hilarious like piano that's just like driving with him and DMX just going nutty. So yeah, I think great production. Jay is just killing it, and now I think he's figured out how to make a single that works for the radio, but it's not him catering too much to the radio. He's still making things that have some content to it, have a message, and are not like pop rap.
Right. Now the opposite of pop rap, 2000, there was one choice. There wasn't any dispute about this guy.
No.
Marshall Mathers LP drops in 2000, and not just rap, but like both music and just the culture changed forever. Like what Eminem did that year, and also Dre, like that has to be in tandem. Is like, because we talked about Dre before. Like Dre's not really mentioned on this list because at the end of the day, his greatest attributes weren't on the mic. It was what he was doing behind the scenes. Dre made rap a national product when he launched Interscope and when M came on the scene and Chronic 2001, like that whole era when they took over rap, it eliminated the regional, it eliminated regions as far as the top of the game. Like it made it clear, no matter if you're on the West Coast, the East Coast, if you're in the dirty, or if you're in the Midwest, Dre, M, and then eventually when 50 came out, like they were the kings. And
yes.
I think 2000 was the first year that was really noticeable.
Well, I mean, Eminem, right? A lot of people, sometimes I think it's, you'll be considered like a punk to say Eminem's the best, but it's like so obvious that like, it can't be denied. One of the greatest rappers of all time, one of the great rap careers, definitely sold the most records, even though I don't think that means everything, but it means something because not only is he selling records and he's getting, all the sales, he's also getting the critical acclaim. So one of the best rappers ever, one of the best careers ever, drops what most people say his best album, his masterpiece, Marshall Mathers LP. And I think where this list works is when an album drops and you can remember where you were when you were first hearing it and the effect it had on you, that's when then this person really did own that year. And for me, Eminem, like, I think we talked about this in the last podcast. It's a point that I like to make is that, like, once something happens and it's in front of our vision, we don't question anymore how kind of out of this world it is, that what is taking place.
Right.
Like how unbelievable it is, because of course it's believable. Look, it happened. But the fact that there was this like white rapper who dyes his hair blonde and he's just like out of this world incredible, that is so unbelievable in 97. You don't believe that could happen. But in 2000, everyone readily accepts this guy's the truth. Like, I still remember the first time I listened to Stan for the first time. And I think so many people did or do who, were old enough just to remember hearing that come out. Like, the first time you heard it, and then you find out that Eminem realizes that the guy who killed himself was Stan, like, that's a moment you don't forget, right? And, like, that doesn't happen that often. It happened there. And the song was just incredible. He was everywhere. Lightning rod for controversy. There was all like this anti-gay sentiment, connected to him, and that like, he was a homophobe. And then he plays at the Grammys with Elton John. They do the Stan cover, which for some reason it's still like rings in my head the way Elton John sang Stan because he killed it. Did his own kind of like take on it. No questions, no problems. 2000s M.
And like even pre Eminem, like when MMLP drops, like the cameos on Dre, like on the Dre tracks. Like nowadays, everybody want to talk that they got something to say, but nothing comes out when they move the lips. Just a bunch of gibberish. Your motherfuckers act that they've got like when you hear that song, I still stop wherever I am if that song comes on. It's like that feature. It's one of the most famous features ever. Just like it was like you were hearing like a Martian from some other planet drop, and like Dre like plucked an alien from the sky.
Heck yeah. And like, sometimes even great songs, it takes like listening to it one or two times for it to like grow on you, right?
Sure.
Some things are just undeniable. And a lot of what he was putting out right then and there was like immediately undeniable, where you're like, holy shit, this is incredible. I don't even have to listen to it for that long to recognize that what the hell is going on here. This is next level. So yeah, 2000 is his, flowing into even 2001, because I think that somewhere in that area is when Chronic 2001 comes out, which I see here that they gave 2001 to Jay, though, huh?
That's what I was going to say. I think this next couple years is a great example of where this list like reaches its limitations, because in my opinion, 2000, 2001, 2002, it doesn't necessarily like change. Like, I think Eminem is the biggest thing, not just in rap, but in music for that whole chunk.
100%.
And like, I have no problems with Jay-Z like getting shouted out like for 2001. Like, there's a lot of reasons why. Although they even wink at it. They go, but Eminem did get him on Renegades. Like, so I don't think it's a matter of like Jay was great, but Eminem was the talk of the whole game for that stretch. Like, if he was on a song, you were jumping to that song to hear Eminem during that stretch.
Now, the feeling I was describing that I had connected to DMX in 98, 99, that feeling then myself and a lot of people had for Eminem in the year 2000. After you heard Marshall Mathers LP, you're like, this guy's unbelievable. Any song he's on, your ears are perked up to listen to what he's going to do next. So for me, I agree. If you're giving him 2000 and they give him 2002, they should have just gave him 2001. They kind of messed up there a little bit. Of course, the Blueprint 2, and they gave the credentials, right? Blueprint 2, one of Jay-Z's best albums, a great album. So he did, Volume 2 is when he became a star, in my opinion. Volume 3, I'm not crazy about. It has some bangers on it. That had Big Pimpin', one of his biggest songs ever. And that song, what I like about that song, it gave props to Bun B and Pimp C before a lot of people did. A lot of people, I know for me, when Big Pimpin' came out, I didn't know Big Bun B and Pimp C. But like, if you talk to any Texas people, Underground Kings, them two, UGK was just like really big. So that was awesome for Jay-Z to give these guys a national stage in a way that they didn't have before. So he had a great year, 2001. Volume 3, to me, a good CD, not a great one. Blueprint, amazing CD. But yeah, to the point, Eminem doesn't lose it because he hasn't dropped anything bad, and it hasn't been that much, not that much time has passed where we haven't heard his voice that he then loses the title. So for me, you give it to M in 2000. He holds on to it 2001. Jay-Z had a great 2001. M holds on to it, and then going into 2002, M continues to retain the title between really kind of just a freakish 3 years of, Marshall Mathers LP, then Chronic 2001, his guest appearance is incredible on that. And then I forget it, all in 2002 was Eminem Show, another one of his great albums, and then 8 Mile soundtrack, the few songs on that.
Until we haven't even mentioned Lose Yourself yet.
Yeah.
Which, Lose Yourself, like, it doesn't have to be his best song for everybody to acknowledge what it was. Like, it won a fucking Oscar. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it transcended everything. And I feel like if there's one like thing to represent what Eminem was in the early 2000s for hip hop and like just for music, it represented all the lines starting to blur. Like, all of the rigidness in music pre-Eminem, he came in and like with 2 middle fingers blaring, he just said like there aren't any rules anymore. Like Dre and M said they're like the rule book, we set fire to it. Like it was in the house that they watched burn down. Like still no one found out.
No, sure. Like, I mean, again, it's one of those things that people downplay now, but like, dude is the #1 rapper on the planet. Now he drops kind of like, you could say, it's not a biopic, but like basically a movie that's based around his life. He stars in it, does a pretty good job, right?
Like, that movie is so good.
I'm not as high on the movie, I think, as you are, but I'll say the rap scenes from the movie are unbelievable,
iconic,
incredible. And if people listening to this, if they haven't heard it, there's one thing I recommend you go check out. if there's a bonus features in the 8 Mile soundtrack, I mean the 8 Mile DVD rather, right? Like disc 2, or you flip the disc over, whatever. In the bonus features, there's like just behind the scenes, right? And they're talking about how pivotal the crowd was to the movie, which people, you can't downplay how important the crowd was in like booing the shitty acts and giving props and like making noise exactly when they're supposed to. They almost like set the table for the audience a little bit in like, this is how I should react. So they're talking about there was a bunch of the directing and like the cast and crew were like, they wanted to film a bunch of cutscenes, right? And they just wanted to use to show like Eminem create a montage of people that he's beaten, right? So they're like, listen, to film these scenes, we just need a few rappers, just that we're gonna like film you and you're gonna make the movie, but you're not gonna like, none of your lines are gonna be heard. So they're like, who can rap? So of course, like half the audience of a few thousand people raised their hand. You're in Detroit in like a warehouse factory. Everyone's like, I can rap. So they're like, shit, we'll just do a tournament, and the best, whoever wins the tournament, will then get to be in the movie. So they do this tournament, they come up with a few winners, and then they come up with the people who are going to battle Eminem for the movie purposes, right? So they're filming, and M's voice is all messed up. So during these scenes that they're filming, the people who are battling M actually like spit a verse, like attacking M. M is just like lip syncing, and there's like he's not saying anything because it doesn't matter, because none of this is when it's going to be a montage in the film. You're not going to hear any of the dialogue. So what happens is one guy gets up and like has a really filthy verse and kind of like attacks M, and the crowd's showing him love. And now M gets on and he's doing his like lip syncing, not saying anything, because that's what the director, his voice is fucked up. That's what he's supposed to do. The crowd starts booing Eminem. Now he's a competitor. He gets tight. He puts his mic on, right? Puts his mic on, starts rapping, starts legit freestyling, and destroys this guy. And then M starts, the other people he has to film these cutscenes with, he starts actually battling them and just annihilates them. Like, they're good, but you can tell he's an all-star. He's the best. And it was like one of the filthiest things I've ever seen in rap. Because like this guy was proving didn't have to do this at all, but the competitor in him, like this is one woman that he battles, and he apologizes at the end because he gets after her so bad. And she almost like, shit, I just got the business.
Right, so, it'd be like watching an NBA player like clowning around with some dudes on the playground, and then like somebody like puts it on him, like, or like, puts it between his legs, gets by, and then the NBA guy's like, all right, like...
Yeah. All right, now I'll turn it on. And that's what he did. So I continue to give it to Eminem to 2002. And we should point out that this is probably the peak of Eminem's career in terms of like a lot of high notes. This is the highest. Lose Yourself could be his best, radio song ever.
Right. I don't... Yeah, you know what? I'm good with that, because I want to make sure we get in at least like a shot in for every year. We're already at the hour mark. We're having a good time. I want to make sure we get to every year. 2003. I don't think we have to spend a ton of time on it, because I'm not a huge 50 guy, but Get Rich or Die Trying is 2003.
Yes, no, I mean, the album went on to sell like first he has a little bit of buzz as the street dude with like these great just mixtapes where he's just like the gulliest dude anywhere, and he's just great. Now here's another funny thing. In 2003 now, I'm having this feeling, same feeling that I had with DMX and then with Eminem, that like the only person I wanted to hear rap in 2003 was 50, because 50 was just, there was just something, he was another charismatic, funny-ass dude. And some of his funniest bits are like not even when he's rapping, when he just talks trash after a song. He's probably one of rap's best trash talkers, just like talking shit about anybody and then doing the, patented 50 Cent laugh. But the funny thing is, now looking back on it, in the year 2003, Jay-Z is still a better rapper than 50 Cent. Like, if you ever listen to what somebody said to me that blew my mind in 2003-4, when I'm like, really, everyone's all about 50, is like, tell me a 50 line where he was like incredibly clever or witty. And I couldn't really say any. Like, I was like, I'll give you some gully-ass 50 lines.
Right.
That
was the thing with 50, is like, if you try to attach any logic to why he blew up, it doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. Like that album blew up, and it kind of is just like a bunch of, like, it's not a black or white thing. It's kind of just a gray. It's like He had the cosign from Dre and from M. That was a big part of it. He came out and nobody sounded like him. That was a huge part of it. He was this big ass dude, like buff, like doing pull ups in the video. That was part of it. Like
big part of it. I think you can't downplay. The fact was, a lot of people were doing like gangster rap, right? And they were doing like, I'm a hustler. Everyone knows this guy got shot 9 times, right? Mm-hmm. So like he was like the real life, like, yo, this guy is legit. He's as hood as everyone claims they are.
Right. That was that. You know what? That's a good point too. The myth of 50 Cent was a really big part of it.
Yeah.
So I got no problems with that. I want to spend a second on 2004 because this is one of the first years that I wasn't feeling, and it's with all due respect to T.I. I just didn't see it that way. But I want to throw it out to you. 2004. Here's the 3 choices. They give us T.I. and for all of the credentials of T.I. Or you could pick 50 Cent rollover because 50 was still 50.
Mm-hmm.
Or why is Kanye West not even mentioned in this? He's not even mentioned in this year. College Dropout in 2004 was one of the most influential music albums of the 21st century. Why is he not even mentioned?
Socially? I mean, socially, I think that album was so influential in that, like, the same way when the Black Album came out, people changed the way they dressed a little bit. In that, like, Jay-Z was like down with jerseys and put a button-up on, and button-ups became so popular on the strength of Jay-Z just saying, rock a button-up, I'm grown now, I'm 30 years old. Same thing with College Dropout. College Dropout, when it came out, like, that really pushed people into this different kind of preppy look because he was pushing it, and it was fly. But here's another, like, kind of example of where the list, I think, fails a little bit, that, like, to me, T.I. is a really good rapper, but in my lifetime, I've never thought T.I. is the best rapper. You know, I think he's a solid rapper, and he's interesting because a lot of down south rappers, there's a bunch who rap kind of slower, and T.I. doesn't do that. He actually does a lot of fast flows often. So kind of got a unique thing. Urban Legend, good-ass CD, but no, for me, I don't give him 2004. Of the options that they have there, the album that I really liked, which I believe was mostly Kanye production too, was Cameron, Purple Haze.
You're a big Cam dude.
Big Cam dude. Cam is just like, again, I don't think Cam's the best.
Right.
Cam is like the jester of rap in that, like, he's just the silly, over the top, you know. And the funny thing about Cam is, like, he's so silly, but he'll never admit to the fact that what he's doing is silly. Which, it's like he'll sell it to you like it's serious. That he's all, like, the picture that they have of him is, he's like in a purple mink vest, right? But to him, it's no games.
Right.
I'm cold and I'm trying to style.
Right.
Here it is.
I think 2004 and actually 2005, they do kind of the same thing with shouting out Jeezy. Like, this was Complex's way of giving us a history lesson. Like, T.I. put out his best album in 2004. Jeezy put out his best work in 2005. But, like, if we were just doing it, like, all right, in 2004, who is the MC that you would drop you would stop macking it to a girl at the bar to go check out a track by this guy?
Yeah.
Like, 2004, it's probably still 50.
Yeah.
And, like, 2005, I don't know if I don't really necessarily know who 2005 is.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I feel like Jeezy being the BRA of 2005 is kind of like if you know, it's kind of like a Steve Nash MVP. It's like, well, he's not the best player in the league. So, like, even if you try to make sense of it, it's like, no, here's his MVP credentials. It's like, yeah, but Kobe's the best player. You know what I mean?
100%. I'm actually, what just dawned upon me is what this list is actually improperly named, because actually it's not telling you the best rapper alive every year. What this list is, which rapper had the greatest buzz for that year. Right. That's what this list is actually giving us. It's giving us that in the year and because people who love young Jeezy, and Jeezy actually, let me take a second to speak on him because he's very unique. In 2000, no one, even Jeezy fans, right? No Jeezy fan, unless you're like a Jeezy stan who is drinking all the Jeezy Kool-Aid, and I apologize for all my semi-suspect things that I'm saying, no one's going to say Jeezy's not the greatest rapper of any year, right?
Right.
Jeezy's not a great rapper. Jeezy will tell you he's not a great rapper. But Jeezy, we should touch on him a little bit because, like, typically the rappers that I enjoy more or listen to more are more of like bring some sort of lyrical like skill, right? So like Big Mos Def, Talib fan, those are the guys that I really like. And sometimes when guys who are like not great rappers get success, I'm like, oh, you're not that good, and there's other guys who are better than you who aren't getting your level of success, so I'm mad at you because of it. But with Jeezy, all the regular things that we use to analyze a rapper or to think about whether he's good or not, that all goes by the wayside when thinking about Jeezy, because there's something about Jeezy, even though his first like album and his first raps, and even now, he says the most basic shit. Like, it's really like fundamental. It's nothing crazy, but the same element that 50 had, Jeezy had, in that authenticity. You believed everything with Jeezy. Jay-Z always goes out of his way to point out that him and Jeezy are the only true like trappers around in terms of like they really lived it. And like Jeezy's story, if people haven't heard, which I think is hilarious, is that Jeezy had a bunch of money that he got, you know, through whatever illegal means, is the way the story goes. And he's like, I want to start a label. So he puts this label together, right? He's not a rapper himself. He's trying to be Suge Knight in this scenario. He's got the money. He wants to put other rappers on. I forget the name of the label. He gets the label, like tries to get it off the ground. All the rap acts that he signs, they all go to prison. No one's around. So he like bought this like studio, set all this shit up, but no one's there to like get on the mic. So he's like, shit, I have all this stuff. Shit, I'll rap. And so that's why it's like, to me, it's very interesting how many people just like love Jeezy. Michael Phelps, for God's sakes, Michael Phelps said he listens to Jeezy before getting into the pool during like his Olympic run. Imagine that. He's listening to like trap shit. Incredible. But like, so I think to this list, Jeezy's never the best rapper alive. He'll tell you that. But he's one of the most authentic. Like, there's just something likable about Jeezy. Like, you want to give Jeezy a pound and like kick it with him and just have him tell you stories about him chilling in his neighborhood.
Right.
And that can't be downplayed because like there's so many rappers who are like not quality, and when they get up, or when they kind of blow up, you're like mad about it. With Jeezy, he didn't have the best lyrics, but he had incredible production. Like, you remember the song that really blew him up, in my opinion, the song with him and Akon, Soul Survivor. Soul Survivor, this like it gave you some kind of feeling.
Even though Akon isn't mentioned at all in this list, and like that always disappoints me because I feel like we underrate Akon so hard. He was on everything for like years.
Yeah, but like Akon, to me, I think, and a lot of people think Akon to me is more like an R&B guy, right? He's a little bit of
no, like he's not an MC. That's not what I meant. I just feel like in general we sleep on Akon's career. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, I agree that like there's a few years, and I think we're getting in those years that like I don't want to say that Akon is a kingmaker, but he's kind of like the way your man Drake is right now. That anytime Drake's on a song, Drake takes a regular song and he's like the super sauce that puts it to another level. That's what Akon was. Akon on a hook, and you're like, all right, I got to put an album together. I need a single, and on the single, Akon has to be on the hook because he's going to dominate because that's what he does. So, again, through these years, I think that, like, I don't have Jeezy as the best. I think I still have, like, 50, M, and Game kind of, like, holding on to it together to some degree. I know this is the certain point actually where Eminem has his like falls off. Actually.
Right, like M's out. Well, I think we should like just get to it because I'm not crazy about this dude, but he has a stretch that's undeniable. So like 06 through 08, Lil Wayne is the king.
Yeah.
Like Wayne comes out, nobody's ever sounded like that, and nobody's ever given us the quantity. Like he's the first rapper to really embrace the technology at hand and just go mixtape, and just give his fans instantly the newest stuff. And he had the skills to back that up. Like there was never any question. Like if you threw a mixtape out and it's like shit, he just dropped something 2 months ago, but you knew half those tracks were going to be fire.
No, it didn't matter. And two, you brought up a great point about the mixtape. I think what some people say, and I happen to agree with, is that if 50 Cent is the father of mixtapes in that, like, he blew up on mixtapes and made getting a mixtape a thing. Like, you had to go get a mixtape off somebody selling it off the street, pre-Dat Piff, And that's where you got all this like street ass hood awesome music that you couldn't get anywhere else. You couldn't go to Sam Goody and get this. You could only get it in that way, which almost ties more into 50's like, story. Like this guy is so of the streets, you can only get his music in the streets pre, the internet really blowing up. But if he's the father of it, Lil Wayne took mixtapes to a whole different place.
Yep.
And I think you're 100% right about he was everywhere, and we hadn't seen a rapper who, like, most of our great rappers, what happens is you get an album from them, like, every 2 years. Every 24 months, you get something new from Nas, Jay-Z, whoever. Lil Wayne had a whole different approach. Lil Wayne was, like, he built himself up on just, like, basically, I felt like for a while what Lil Wayne was doing in, like, 2006 and moving forward, he would get on a bunch of big beats. Oftentimes, I think he liked getting on Jay-Z beats and, like, purposefully out rapping Jay-Z.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a real thing. Like that was a strategy of his.
And like rapping so damn well that you're like, wow, this is Jay-Z's song, but whenever I hear it on the radio, I think about Lil Wayne's version of the song. And it even like created like, now they say there's a few different Lil Waynes, and this is mixtape Wheezy, where it's just him spazzing out. Which mixtapes kind of allow you to spaz out a little more, because oftentimes mixtape songs don't have one like premise, so you can just kind of almost show off and do any sort of like lyrical tricks, and that is where he was like the best at. So especially with this, an album that a lot of people haven't heard, or not as many as I think should, the Carter 2, which I guess it says here came out in 2005 but bumped 2006. I found out about it a couple of years later. Carter 2 to me is Lil Wayne's masterpiece. It's what Marshall Mathers' LP is to Eminem. That's what the Carter 2 is for me, for Lil Wayne, because there's a bunch of songs on there. There's no hook. It's just him spitting for 5 minutes with the beat kind of changing throughout it. Incredible CD. Go listen to it if you haven't heard it. There's a song with Robin Thicke on there called Shooter that's like unbelievable.
Yep.
But yes, Lil Wayne for me, I have no qualm saying, actually, at 2006, once his mixtapes start popping off and the Carter 2 comes out, and now he's just, and then he starts becoming the artist who now he's what we described Akon of being, and
right.
Before that, I forget who we said before that was or what Drake is now. Lil Wayne was doing that for a while.
If you put Wayne on your track, everybody listened to it.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Your no-name artist. So many people, like, basically his career their careers got catapulted or springboarded because of what Wheezy did. Like, there's a few Bobby Valentino songs. Like, he's kind of popular, but, once Wheezy's on the track, it's a whole different thing. And, of course, as an honorable mention, I need to get to for 2006. Let's see what he put out in 06, so just so I'm clear. One of my favorite rappers of all time gets a lot of shit because he's, like, seemingly such an agitator on Twitter, is my man Lupe Fiasco. Dropped his first album, Food and Liquor. Yeah. I'm in college when this came out, and I was completely blown away.
Is American Terrorist on there?
Yes.
Yeah.
And American Terrorist, one of the most intelligent rap songs, popular rap songs you ever heard.
No doubt.
He's breaking down, like, U.S. policy. Like, I used to tell people, this is actually a lesson in international relations if you don't know anything about international relations, and, like the interplay of different things America has done against different countries. And, not to get too far into it, but, like, for me, I heard a little bit about this guy. Actually, it started for hearing the single Kick Push, right? Kind of a unique single. What's his name just started really pushing, like, skateboard culture. Who's that? Pharrell. They call him Skateboard P. But this was a guy who his first single, and probably, like, for me and for a lot of people, the first time you heard him was the song Kick Push, where he's talking about, like, skateboarding, but then he's also, like, connecting it to, like, hustling in the street, right? Or, like, using it as an analogy to what's happening with people hustling. So he's like, actually, he says the very beginning of the song, he's like, shout out to all my people grinding legally or illegally. So just shit like that, really clever. And I was like, to me, I had this feeling like this guy's going to be the best because he's just so smart and he can rap his ass off. So to me, right then and there, I give 06 to Wheezy because his like output is so unbelievable. But for me, Lupe is like hot on his tail because Lupe, incredibly intelligent. He's making songs that, like, there's a lot of guys who are really smart, but their music you don't want to listen to because it just seems like it's boring. He wasn't that. He was, like, clever, charismatic, and just like some of the songs really knocked. He won a Grammy, actually. I didn't know this. Him and Jill Scott won a Grammy for one of the songs, Daydream. Great song from that
song.
album.
Yeah. But like, Lupe wasn't the best rapper alive, right?
You know, for me, I'm really high on Lupe because he's got the intel. Like, for me, 2006, I think that it's him and Weezy actually neck and neck.
Okay. But
it's a subjective matter. It's subjective.
No, it's so subjective. I mean, best rapper alive in like in a populist way, because ultimately,
no, you know, very well stated. In like popular people who listen to rap are like, out of 100 of them, how many are gonna say Lupe is the best? Right in 2006, not many. I agree with that.
Right, and Wayne was taking over. Actually, you know what? I just made an improv decision because we're at $1.15 right now. I think we gotta split this. I think we go part 1 and part 2.
Okay,
you down?
No, I think you're right because like I know we had so much to speak on in the last 7-8 years because then the legend of Kanye starts to grow, and I know you got a couple of things to say on that, right?
We got some things brewing up. All right, so we're gonna cut it right here. We're gonna throw this one up probably come out on Monday. We're gonna throw a part 2 up later in the week. We'll be right back, but stay tuned for part 2.
All right.
Grindin'.